And this is National Real Estate Auction Radio, and I'm your host, Doug Dennison. Again, we've got great guests, and we're going to first talk to Lewis Fisher while we wait our first call-in. Lewis Fisher is a friend of mine for 20 years, a partner. He was my boss. He's probably considered one of the best auctioneers in the country. Has sold more than 22,000 properties in 46 states, and it's a thrill to have you here, sir. And we're going to be talking a little bit later. I see the first call, but we're going to be talking about your perception of the market right now, past auctions that we have done, the change, and perhaps the fact that you've got 3 auction awards from the state of Florida for being an auctioneer, but right now, more and more, it's going internet auctions. So let's go to our first caller. You're on the air. Okay, we lost him. Again, let's go back. Internet auctions, it seems like that's the way to go, and you've been involved with several of them. Why is it that more and more people and more firms are going with internet auctions?
I think that the internet itself has catapulted our industry light years with the ability to expand the audience and allow them to participate, from their computer. And it's a wonderful thing for a seller to have every registered eligible bidder interested in their property to be able to bid. In the 90s, we were packing ballrooms, and you would actually have to travel. If you were in New Mexico and were looking for a property in Colorado, you'd actually either have to get on an airplane or get in your car and drive. There was no ability other than a phone. But bidders like the transparency, I think, of the internet, and I think people are more accustomed to buying on the internet. You get to everything that you can imagine you can purchase, and eBay has helped us, I think, accept that culture. So bidders, I think, like it, and sellers, it's beneficial for them, and it's certainly more easy for the auction company and for the real estate agent.
Well, I agree with you completely. We've got our first call. You're on the air.
Hey.
Hello?
Yes, Douglas.
Hey, Mr. Pappas, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm listening to Lewis.
Well, yes, and you and Lewis go way back, and we've done auctions together. But first of all, tell me what you do, and tell me about Kai's.
The Kai's Company is a large regional brokerage firm in South Florida. We have 25 offices and about 1,600 associates, and we sell about $2 billion of real estate a year in residential and commercial properties.
Okay, and throughout South Florida, how far do you go, and how far south and west and all that kind of stuff?
We're in the Gold Coast, down to Homestead in the south part of Miami. We go all the way up to Jupiter, which is the Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, and we do have an office in the Hutchinson Island, and a beautiful Hutchinson Island right on the beach, and another one right across the street from the beach in New Smyrna Beach, which is Volusia County. So basically the East Coast, but mainly the South Florida area. We touch you a little bit up north there in New Smyrna Beach. Well,
you do residential, you do commercial, and again, the company has been around for a long time. It's a figure in real estate for many, many years. When did Kai's actually begin?
It started in 1926. A man named Ken Kai's came out of Ohio and came to the boom of South Florida at that time, and the Merricks and the Fishers and the Meisners and all the names that you know were kind of booming. And then there was a hurricane that came through in September of 26 that pretty much shut down South Florida and Miami, and he got into property management, and then we went into a little bit of a slowdown in the 30s, and then we caught the boom after World War II with the suburban growth, and the company expanded at that time.
Well, very good. What is the Miami market doing right now? And again, you've been with Kai's and real estate for a long time. You're a CCIM, which is the elite commercial brokers of the world. You've been ups and downs. Tell us what's happening in Miami right now.
Yeah, no, there's no question. We've been on a roller coaster ride. We hit the boom. Everybody bet on the sun and the sand a little early, along with Arizona, Nevada, and California. So, and then with the underwriting requirements that were eliminated, we definitely got people that probably shouldn't have been buying, and we had one of the biggest building booms in South Florida's history, probably the biggest building boom, with over 40,000 condos being built here in the last decade. So we saw prices soar, and now we've seen prices drop like a lead balloon, and that's bringing on international, European, Canadian folks that we've never seen in droves. And so our units sales so far for this year and even last year will surpass the 2005 boom in unit sales, because people realize what a bargain it is with low interest rates. In fact, affordability, taking the median or average income against the average or median home, is 2 to 1, meaning an average individual can buy twice the value of an average home today because of all those factors that we just talked about. So we're seeing a robust turn. Obviously, the issue that hasn't happened is price increase, and we may even still see a little bit of a price decrease as we're moving through and digesting all of these foreclosures and distress sales that are driving down the prices, that are bringing in the world money, so to speak, to South Florida. So it's quite an exciting time, and there's no question that long term it bodes well, because we have limited land. To the west of us, we have the Everglades. To the east of us, we have the ocean. We in South Florida are like Long Island, 125 miles long from Jupiter to the Keys, and literally by 25 miles wide. So, and there's currently 6 million people that live down here. We'd be the 36th largest GDP in the world of all economies, and so I think it gives you some sense of the size and scope and opportunities.
Well, very, very good. In the boom time, it seemed like everybody had a broker's license, a real estate license, and you know, people were saying, "Hey, we're going to get into the real estate game because it's a way to make money." And are you seeing a difference in your agents, that they are more mature, they're more trained? You know, how do you feel about that change?
Yeah, no question. Those associates that got into the business in 4 and 5 in the boom have washed out, because it almost was like a tsunami, and that's probably a bad wording, but It just was so powerful, and there was so much going on that they couldn't grasp it. We've moved back to a more reasonable market where the sellers need you, marketing takes effect, and positioning and marketing and promoting the properties always with a mature, seasoned individual makes a difference. We're actually seeing young people come into it with all the technology changes, and so I'm seeing 20s and 30s people that are doing very well. We're seeing more educated. We're seeing individuals that may have lost their jobs in other industries that were successful and maybe had some sales background and more of an employment type of a structure move in. So I think the quality of individuals has definitely stepped up, and I think that the industry is, again, using technology today as a help and support with the information age and being more of a consultative approach. I think we definitely are seeing a strong relationship between the consumer and the associates.
Well, very, very good. Listen, now, our focus of this show is how real estate auction firms work with real estate broker firms, and how they can make money in a variety of ways. Number one, brokers, and I use brokers as real estate associates, real estate agents, they bring buyers to our auctions and get paid a commission anywhere from 1 to 5%, depending on the deal. 1% for great big properties, obviously, and then up to 5% on deals where that's available. And also, brokers become partners when they are told by their seller that, listen, we need to sell this quickly. We need to find an auction firm, and we have worked several times, and I'll get back to that in just a bit. And then sometimes the auction firm gets a deal, but rather than do it themselves, even though they've got licenses, they reach out to brokers and firms in that area so that they know the up-to-date market. They know the buyers in the market. They have a good information about the market, and so we reach out to you guys, and we've done, I want to say, 4 auctions together, but one of them I want to talk about is one several years ago. It was a GSA auction. It was down in the Homestead area, and one of your associates, and we reached out to Kai's to do the deal, and they were the local headquarter broker. They took all the calls. Our advertising was on a 50-50 basis where, our logo would be the same size as your logo.
Right.
And again, we want to be a 50-50 partner when we do that kind of thing. And anyway,
and that was a big success, Doug. I mean, I think you know the story, and I think there's no question that we've enjoyed partnering with you. And I think as we look at what we call tools in the toolbox, we are in the business of selling properties, and the auction option is no question a popular one, and one that it takes on a myriad of different approaches. But just as you said, properties that are difficult to sell, properties that are unusual, or properties that need a quick sale and don't want to wait for the normal marketing time and are willing to invest in it. And that GSA property was 168 acres, so I remember it well, and it was down there, a lot of it in the wetland. If you know that in Florida, you get some of that where now with the government and the EPA, you can't deal with it. And so our people actually did the assessment on it and thought maybe it was going to be $300,000-$500,000, and they were hoping to get over $250,000 in the sale. And through your marketing efforts, I mean, there was 30 and 40 people showed up, and I think over a dozen or so that brought in $25,000 checks, and it just was a big success. And just like always, the neighbor of the property is usually the best buyer, but without your great marketing, without the great efforts, that neighbor may not have stepped up and ended up paying a whopping $1,250,000 for a property that we thought was less than $500,000, and it was the neighbor that wanted it, and as a buffer against the other people. So congratulations, that was a great success, and we still talk about that today.
Well, I appreciate that, because the reason why they were there and were being competitive with bidding is because your professional suggested, because it was wetlands, that a developer couldn't do anything with the property, or it would be very difficult, even though this was a time when maybe developers would want to try. But what your people did, and Bill T-Ball and Steve Rybell came up with this plan, is to go after cell phone companies and satellite companies and towers. And those were the people who came, and those are the people that helped the bidding process. And again, it was a tremendous success.
Well, you know that the old adage is there's uniqueness about a property, and the only way that I think the brokers and auctioneers' job is to expose the property to the masses,
yes,
bring the buyers together, and when you can bring a number of them together, as you do and do so well, and they're there together, and you do at times get this feeding frenzy or get this competitive bidding, and then that obviously maximizes the opportunities for the seller, as it did in this case, which was the government. And I think you've gotten their letters of approval and thanks, because I don't think they even expected anywhere near to get what they were able to receive for that piece of property. And I think we're moving into a government sale of a lot of property. If you listen to our president recently saying to help balance the budget, they may be selling some government property. So I think it's timely even to remember that.
Well, I appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about YPO, and this is kind of off the track for real estate auctions and real estate, but you were heavily involved in that and probably still are.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about YPO and what you did.
Yeah, YPO is called the Young Presidents Organization. It's 18,000 members worldwide. Under 45 years old, used to be 40. You had to run a substantial size company, and it was a peer network to be able to educate and basically become a better president through idea exchange and education. And there's 350 chapters around the world in 100 countries, and I did have a nice opportunity to run up the governance ladder and actually became the international chairman in the 7-8 year, which was just spectacular. Got to visit 55 countries, and I was gone about 200 days as our market was unraveling. So it gave me some a reason to get away from the falling market. And so now that I've gotten back into it, the market's rising since that period of time. 8, we've done better than 9, better than 10, and it looks like 11 is going to be even better than 10. So we're encouraged about the future, but that was a rough ride at that time.
Well, it's also an organization that helps the community, and again, you've always been that person that reached out to the community in Miami to help through your agents and through your associates. And I want to thank you. Tell us how we can reach you and our listeners can reach you, because you are the voice of Miami as far as it comes to real estate.
If anybody needs any help in South Florida, any questions they have, my direct number is 305-779-1926, the same year that our company was founded. So 305-779-1926. My email is Mike Pappas, P as in Peter, A-P-P-A-S, all P's, good Greek name, and at Keyes, Keyes.com. So just with I's with a K in front of it, Mike Pappas at Keyes.com. And again, Doug, we just thank you for your professionalism, the partnership that we've had, adding it to our toolkit as a broker gave us an edge over our competition, and also gave our associates some good dollars as they work together with you.
Well, very good. I appreciate it. And again, Mike's website is www.keyes.com, and again, thousands of agents in the area. Mike, thank you so much, and have a great day.
You too.
Okay. Again, we're back with Lewis Fisher. Let me tell you again about the program. You're listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio, and I'm your host, Doug Dennison. We are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city, at WFOY 1240 AM studios. And through the power of the Internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on www.1240news.com. The show is also archived on RowellAuctions.com, who are the sponsors of the show, and also YouTube. We're going to be talking about real estate auctions, past auctions, upcoming auctions, different real estate markets across the country, and we've got lots of topics today. We just heard from Mike Pappas, CEO of Keyes Company in Miami, South Florida, and great insight about the Miami market. We've got more guests today. We've got Lewis Fisher, who is the CEO of Sperry Van Ness Accelerated Marketing, in the studio. We've got John Lewinger, who's the founder of Grubb & Ellis Commercial in New Mexico, and he's from Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're going to have Rosendo Caveiro, Senior Advisor for Cushman and Wakefield in Miami, Florida, and we'll have David Hart, who is Executive Vice President of Rowell Auctions from Georgia. Let me tell you about our sponsor. Rowell Auctions is a national real estate auction firm that started in 1936. They do online auctions, on-site auctions, and ballroom auctions. They have offices in Florida, New Jersey, California, Georgia, and have alliances with auctioneers and real estate brokers across the country. They do government auctions, bank auctions, bankruptcy auctions, and much more. They have a big auction schedule coming up, so check out their website at www.rowell, and that's ROWELL, auctions with an S.com, or you can call them at 800-323-8388. Louis Fisher is with us. Louis has been a partner, a friend, my boss for 20 years, one of the finest auctioneers in the country. And we were talking about the internet auctions going, basically the future of this auction world. Tell us real quickly, and we'll be back to it, but one of the big auctions, and maybe the world's largest auction, internet auction, was in Sarasota, Florida. Give us a little bit about that.
Well, that was timing at its best, and right at the peak of the market, right before it started to head in the wrong direction, we were engaged to sell 2,100 properties within a certain city limits, which actually represented about a fifth of the land mass of that entire city itself. And we took it on the internet, and it was a remarkable accomplishment, Doug, you and I together. It ended up those 2,100 properties were bid on individually by people all over the country and the world, and we also had a number of real estate brokers who were involved representing the successful purchasers, and the sale ended up selling for, our total was $65 million, and the seller was obviously happy. We exceeded their expectations. The real estate brokerage community was very happy. They earned money. The need was met, I should say, to dispose of the properties and get them back into the private sector and out of the government's hands, so that taxes could be paid and infrastructure could be made, et cetera, et cetera. So at that time, as you say, I think it probably might have been the world's largest at that time of individual properties.
Well, I agree. And talking about real estate brokers finding gold, I think we paid out as a firm more than $500,000 in commissions for people who were bringing in buyers, registering their buyers, making sure that they signed, and the buyer signed. And again, we had a great success. We'll talk more about it. We're coming up on a break at 10:30. And again, Louis Fisher is in the house, one of the best auctioneers in the country from Sperry, Ness. And Louis, it's great to have you here. But let's go for a quick break. And again, you're on WFOY 1240.
It's time to visit the St. Johns County Flea Market. Great deals every weekend. Every weekend there's great bargains, great food at the St. Johns County Flea Market. Get off I-95 at State Road 207. I-95 at 207. You want to be a vendor? Booth rentals start at only $10 a day. Churches and charities, you can get a free booth 2 days a month. And for everybody else, there's great deals at the St. Johns County Flea Market. 824-4210, stjohnsfleamarket.com.
You'll thank heaven for Papa Lock.
It's happened to all of us. The car door slams shut, your keys are in the ignition. Ouch! Or maybe you just locked yourself out of your house. Papa Lock of St. Augustine is your lockout specialist. Plus, Papa Lock is your expert in keys made for most cars, commercial locksmithing, and rekeying your car or home. Call 940-0000 today. 940-0000.
No matter where you are, when you need a little help, call Papa Lock. Oh, yeah!
6,000 trade guaranteed towards new Sedona Sorrento. Must qualify for auto loyalty or competitive bonus and military discount with approved credit. It's spring cleaning time, and Family Kia's here to help. We don't care if it's got a broken motor and an awful odor. This week at Family Kia in St. Augustine, your trade is worth at least $6,000. Guaranteed. Due to unprecedented customer demand, Family Kia needs your trade. So right now at Family Kia, get a minimum $6,000 trade-in value for any trade with any mileage and any condition towards a brand new Kia. Guaranteed. Find spring cleaning savings on every new Kia, all with 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranties. And remember, we don't care if it sputters and spits and looks like push, pull, or drag it in. Your trade is worth at least $6,000 guaranteed. This week at Family Kia, 2665 US 1 South in St. Augustine. Online at FamilyKia.com. Kia, the power to surprise.
Escape to the good life at Ocean Grove RV Supercenter. Family owned and operated since 1980, our friendly, no-pressure staff welcomes you to the lowest prices and the best service on newer used RVs. Like a 2011 Jayco J-Flight for just $129 per month, or a newer used fifth wheel from just $199 per month. Affordable family fun is yours in an Ocean Grove RV. Come see us today.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
We welcome you to our family at Ocean Grove.
Ocean Grove RV in St. Augustine.
I'm Chris Phillips. Here's the weekend forecast for St. Augustine. Sunshine Saturday and a high of 82 degrees. Southwesterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Partly cloudy skies on Saturday night and a low of 62. Look for partly cloudy skies on Sunday. Highs in the mid-80s. Sunday night, look for a low of 65. This weather forecast is brought to you by Ocean Grove RV. Family-owned and operated since 1980. Their friendly, no-pressure staff welcomes you to the lowest prices and best service.
Okay, we are back. You're listening to National Real Estate Auction Radio. I'm your guest, Doug Dennison. The mission statement for this program is to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for auctions across the country. And we've got John Lewinger on the phone, on the line, and he is with Grubb & Ellis, actually the founder of Grubb & Ellis, New Mexico. And earlier, before we get on the line, he was with the radio show for 18 years. So he's gonna tell me how I'm doing.
Yeah, and it took me about 16. I'm finally over the stuttering, so I'm in good shape. Doug, how are you doing? Is Fisher there with you also?
Yes, Lewis Fish.
Hi, Lewis.
Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Well, it's great to hear from you, and we. It's been a long time from that first auction together, and we'll go into that. But we did see each other, 6 months, a year ago in Dallas. And
yes, sir.
You were a speaker, a commercial real estate speaker at DS News. While I'm on DS News, I want to thank them. They promoted and put on their website about this radio show, and they are basically the happening place to be on dsnews.com, where if you're a real estate broker or looking to be in the REO business, you need to go to their conferences. You need to get on their email list. They know everything about REOs and sales and all that kind of good stuff.
Well, you were a speaker in Dallas also, weren't you, Doug?
Yes, I was, John. Thank you.
I thought they paid me $20,000. I thought that was just a great event.
I got a little bit less than that, but you know, when you're a big timer like you,
oh yeah.
Tell us about the New Mexico market, John.
Well, New Mexico is an interesting place. It's a very, very large state physically. It has slightly less than 2 million people. The biggest city is Albuquerque, and its metropolitan area is about 800,000 people. I gather there are a lot of real estate people that listen to this show. Our office market's about 14 million square feet. Our retail market's about 25 million square feet. And our industrial market's about 35 million square feet. So it's a rather small community. I came here really 40 years ago, and there were no franchises here. And so it's really grown. I think it's about to grow more as it gets over 1 million people in the next 10 years or so. And I was trying to think this morning what some of the things I would say to you. We've got no earthquakes, we got no floods, we got no hurricanes, we've got no tornadoes. Today it's going to be 68 degrees, and the humidity was about 25%.
Wow.
And it's just, and I live at 7,000 feet. It's just a fabulous place to live and work.
Well, we've been to your house, Lewis and I, and you were very gracious when we worked together.
That was right before the foreclosure.
That was that was many years ago. And tell us about how we got together for our first auction and what kind of success did we have.
Actually, it was I have a little picture of a billboard we put up. It was in 1992. And it was right at maybe it was 92 as the Resolution Trust Corporation, RTC, was really in full operations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Lewis, it was when your dad was running a company called Fisher Auction, and we had, or maybe you were running it and he was having a good time. We auctioned off 702 properties, and we started at 6:30 in the afternoon or in the evening, and we ended up at about 1:45 in the morning. There was a dance band in between. The average auction time was about 45 seconds, and there was a 30-second dance band break between each auction, and it was all no reserve, and it was just unbelievable.
All absolute. It was great. I want to say that we had 3,000 people in the
probably
in the Marriott. I think it was.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing we've seen here since the rodeo, man.
Well, we're talking about real estate brokers and how they work with auction firms, and let me tell our listeners how you worked with us. You became our local auction headquarters. You received many of the calls. Many of the people would come to your offices to find more information about the properties. And again, this was before the internet and emails and all that kind of stuff. So it was much harder. But you had thousands of people come into your office, which is a good thing for a broker.
No, it was an absolutely win-win situation. We made more than enough money to be fairly compensated. Not as much as I wanted, but
of course,
fairly compensated.
Of course.
But the notoriety that my company got, there were thousands of people there, and it was a relatively small community. You could tell by the bidding who had money. I mean, it was just it sort of got my company on the map. It gave us some needed cash flow that was very, very. It's not from a cash flow standpoint, not too much different than these times. And it was just a great event. And then we got to know you guys, too.
Well, it was wonderful. What are you doing now, John?
I've decided that I'm going to tell people I'm semi-retired, work about 5 or 6 hours a day. Because of all the varied things I've done over my life, I have a small job with a bank, a title company, a real estate development company, and the qualifying broker for Grubb & Ellis.
Well,
I got to get about 2 more jobs, and I'll be able to afford my lifestyle.
Well, my friend, thank you for calling in. How do people get in touch with you? Because you know the New Mexico market, especially Albuquerque, better than anyone.
Well, I think throughout, we have offices in Santa Fe and Las Cruces, which is the 2 ends of the state, and I think we can assist anybody in that neighboring area. My direct line is 505-880-7000, and my email address is the letter J, last name Lewinger, Lewinger at NMREA, which is New Mexico Real Estate Associates, but just the initials, NMREA.com.
Well, I thank you again, sir, and appreciate our friendship for these many years, and hopefully Lewis and I will get out and see you guys again.
Okay, man.
All right.
Great talking to you guys.
You take care.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
John.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to the National Real Estate Auction Radio Show. We just heard from John Lewinger, who is the man in New Mexico, real estate broker for Grubb & Ellis. And he was talking about the market and our first auction together. And listen, hey, like our show? Have a question about auctions that you want the show to address? Do you want to be an advertiser on the show? Well, let me know by emailing me at Doug, D-O-U-G, at RowellAuctions.com. That's Doug at RowellAuctions.com. We've had Mike Pappas on today. We've had John Lewinger. We've got Lewis Fisher, who, again, is one of the finest auctioneers in the country. And we talked a little bit about internet auction. Lewis, you get many calls about people, sellers that are looking to sell. And you've got to really be careful on who you pick and who you decide to work with, because we had an old saying, you're only as good as your last auction. And so tell us a little bit what you do in regards to deciding on who you want to work with.
Well, I think one of the things that we've been challenged with in this market is to become more of an advisor than a salesperson. When you sit with a client, you really have to ask some painful questions, and you've got to find their pain, and you've got to address it, and you've got to be able to position their property or their properties, whichever may be the case, into the market to ensure the greatest percentage of success. The biggest challenge that we find with choosing the right seller today is whether or not we can manage their expectations adequately and properly. And by that, what I'm saying is that there still exists in many cases, you might have a seller who wants to sell, but cannot sell because of they have too much lien on the property.
Mm-hmm.
What auctions today represent is you use it for a need to sell,
mm-hmm.
not need for profit. Those days are not existing right now. And so what we find is the institutional sellers are the ones that we sit with and advise most often in trying to develop a plan and an exit strategy that meets their objectives and maximizes the value that the market will pay today.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing we see with the market is the confidence in the buyer. You've got to be able to have the buyers be confident in what they're bidding, and that's one of the things the auction gives is transparency. You have that reinforcement that you did okay because there's somebody willing to bid just a little bit below you if you're the high bidder.
I agree, and one of the things that we always thought was good for the government, and now I think it's good for banks, because banks are kind of working with the government in a lot of areas with the FDIC and everything, is when banks have properties and the government has properties, well, it's not their job to keep them and hold them. Their job is to sell them. And how do they determine what is the best price? And I know you've got appraisals, and I know you've got offers that come in. Stanley Tate had a really good point. Stanley Tate of North Miami, who was the former head of the RTC, when he did our first auction together with him and Lewis and I, he had several offers, but they were all different financing, different deposits, different closings. And what an auction does, and that a government agency or a bank can depend on, is that everything is going to be exactly the same. So you're all on the same playing field, and through competition, they now have proof, if you've marketed it well, which of course we prove to them, how many different buyers and how many different calls that came in and what kind of interest and where we advertise. We prove to them that, lo and behold, this is the market. And somebody said like an auction is the best, market, I guess, definition. And so tell us, I think we just lost our caller, and I apologize to Rosendo Caveiro. He's going to be calling in. But how do we as auctioneers kind of tell the sellers that this is the market? How do we prove to them that this is the best price and you're not going to get any more? How do you do that?
Well, in the conventional sale process, what typically happens is a real estate agent or broker sits with the client, and they determine what the price that the seller wants.
Right.
And then they go to market. And what happens is the buyers respond to that piece of real estate, and they begin to negotiate against the seller for their most favorable terms. In other words, I'll give you this price, but I want 90 days in order to do my due diligence and secure my financing, et cetera. And what the auction does is it flips that process, and the seller takes control of the terms. They set forth the terms, and then the paradigm of pricing is removed from the equation momentarily. And so when the event takes place, all of the bidders are bidding on the same terms of the transaction. And what happens is, through the competition, the market value is achieved. And so there's that certainty of closing that takes place, and the transparency and all the other things we've talked about.
I agree. Let's go to our caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Doug.
Hey, Rosendo. How are you doing, sir?
A little bit under the weather, but pretty good.
We're doing fine. We've got Louis Fisher in the studio, and you and Louis go back many years.
Yes, we do. We sure do. Many years. At least 20, maybe more.
Tell us what you do and what your firm is.
Yeah, I work for Cushman and Wakefield, one of the biggest international real estate, full-service real estate companies in the world. We are privately owned. We provide brokerage services, leasing services, management services, and consulting services, all related to real estate in all parts of the globe.
Well, you are you're the multifamily guy, aren't you?
And specifically what I do, I'm in the my specialty is multifamily, or my team is, and what we do is the brokerage of apartment buildings, condominiums that are fractured, what we sell them in bulk, and land to build apartments or condominiums.
Explain what a fraction or fracture development is for us.
Yeah, fractured condo project is one. For example, let's say it's an apartment building that's 200 units. Investors bought it to convert to condominiums, where you sell each unit individually. And let's say they bought it at the height of the market, and they sold out of 200, they sold 50 of those units.
Mm-hmm.
And they may have 150 that didn't sell for whatever reason, call it the economy. Then we would be hired by either the condo converters, or in many cases the lender who took over the unsold units, to sell the remaining inventory, but in bulk, not individually, in bulk.
Mm-hmm. You and I and Louis have worked together several times. I'm going to give you an option. Tell us about one auction that you liked the best.
Wow, there's so many of them.
All right, I'll give you one. That's too long. How about
give me one, because
how about Deerwood? How about Deerwood and the hurricane battered apartment buildings?
I was going to mention that one, because that one had a lot of challenges. Here we are. We're trying to sell a 300, 400 unit apartment complex that had just been totally destroyed by, I believe it was Hurricane Andrew.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we're trying to sell this thing. There's only a handful of people living at the property. The owner had tried to fix some of these units, but still, so it was a real challenge, because you had to convince buyers that, A, there was nothing structurally wrong with the buildings. B, you had to convince the buyers that you can turn these into rentable units within a short time. And three, you got to convince them that the market was strong enough that people would actually lease there after these units have been totally destroyed by the hurricane.
Right.
Very, very challenging, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm trying to remember. Louis is here. He's got a better memory than me. What did we sell that for, Louis?
That was when we created for the RTC the sealed bid auction process, where the sealed, you had to submit your initial offer in a sealed bid, and then we took the top 5 and took them into an open outcry event. We started the bidding in the open outcry with the highest sealed bid that we had received, and the highest sealed bid we got, I think, was around $7.9 million. And then we took the 5 highest bidders and began the bidding at that number. And when we said sold, it was around $8.4 million, I believe. So we exceeded another. We got the government a little bit more than $500,000 more in addition to what the initial offer was.
It was a great auction, and what I'd like to do, Rosendo, because we're a little short on time today, and I apologize, I'm going to have you back on another show. But you are the multifamily man in South Florida, and actually work with Cushman Wakefield people across the country. How do people reach you to find out about opportunities?
The best place to reach me is calling me directly. My direct line is 305-533-2877, or my email, rosendo.caveiro@cushwake.com, and that's ROSENDO.CAVEIRO@cushwake.com.
Well, my friend, it's great to talk to you again, and look forward to seeing you down the road, and and Lewis and I have special memories of our work together.
Yes, we did a lot of good stuff for a lot of banks.
Well,
we enjoyed it while we were doing it.
Let's see if we can work together down the future. Take care, Rosendo. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, we're back. We've got Lewis Fisher. Lewis Fisher, again, one of the finest auctioneers in the country. He and I have worked together, been best friends for 20-plus years. He now works for Sperry Van Ness. And before I forget, tell us about Sperry Van Ness and how can people reach you?
Sperry Van Ness is one of the largest commercial investment brokerage firms in the country, and I lead the accelerated marketing team for them. We're a fully integrated auction division, and best way to get me is probably by email, and that's Fisher, Fisher, the letter L, at S as in Sam, V as in Victor, N as in Nancy.com.
Well, very good. We've got another caller on the line. You're on the air.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, David.
This is David.
Well, how are you doing, sir? We've got David.
I'm wonderfully well, bud.
Good. We got David Hart, who's the Executive Vice President and COO of Rowell Auctions, and a pleasure to have you on the show.
Glad to be here.
Tell us, how did you get into auctions, David?
Doug, auctions were a natural fit for me. I grew up in an ag community, experienced a lot of agricultural-type auctions in my adolescence, and then had an opportunity to participate in the real estate portion of the auction industry right out of high school as I worked my way through the college segment of my life, and it was just a natural fit. Auctions are a lot of energy, and went from there.
How long have you been with Rowell Auctions?
Doug, I've been full-time since 1989.
Wow.
About 22 years.
That's excellent. And, again, Rowell Auctions started in 1936, so very well known across the country. Tell us about your upcoming auctions and how can people go to the website to find out about all these auctions, David?
Doug, the spring is looking like it's going to be jam-packed. It was interesting to us. The first quarter was somewhat sluggish with people making decisions, but it became obvious probably 4, 5, 6 weeks ago that the market was going to begin to heat up as far as auction sales are concerned. We have a variety of sales coming up, some of them on-site sales. Many of them are online auctions, and you can always access any of the information, our auction events at our website, rowellauctions.com. And Rowell is always spelled R-O-W-E-L-L. We have a series of agricultural offerings. We're coming up at the 1st of April across the state of Georgia, about 6 statewide events where we're going to be offering recreational tracks, investment tracks, and things such as that. We have a supply of bank REOs that are coming across the southern district of Georgia in April as well. Have some bankruptcy auctions that are coming up in mid-April. And then, of course, it looks like in May right now we have contracted to do about 350, 400 assets across Georgia and North Carolina as well. Information available at the website 24 hours a day, www.rowellauctions.com.
Very, very nice. Your firm has really talked about from getting in front of people, doing an auction. You've gone to internet auctions, and again, Lewis Fisher is with us, and he was saying the same thing, that's the way to go. How did you start this? And you've got a great system, a great bidding system. Tell us about that.
Well, the main thing we began to realize a few years back was the power of the internet was just phenomenal. With the advent of the internet, people have become very much sensitive to receiving information immediately, and we just took the idea that if the information could be provided immediately wherever you are, that also you could give them the bidding opportunity wherever you are and not force individuals to actually come to a venue pre-selected by the auction company. We originally started the auction using some lower-end assets on the internet platform only, and were well pleased. We had some clients that were willing to allow us to try some higher-end assets, internet-only bidding. And what we have found is that in the internet medium, the product is available 24/7. The The bidding opportunity is there. Of course, you do put a specific ending date in your bid process, which works identically to the negotiating power of the actual live cry auction, with the exception that if bidding demand requires the bidding window can be extended to allow the auctioneer and ultimately the seller to receive every last bid available on that product using this process. Whereas in what we found on the live cry auction is, the auctioneer generally has to bring it to a close sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
On the online venue, what you have is you allow the public to just push the price point until there is absolutely no further demand and you declare a winning bidder.
Well, you've been extremely successful. You also are a member of the MarkNet Alliance. Can you tell us real quickly about MarkNet Alliance?
Doug, MarkNet has been a tremendous asset to our firm. MarkNet is an alliance of 40 auctioneers across the United States, representing licensing abilities in 42 different states. And it brings the power of the Internet, the power of cooperation together. MarkNet alone in 2010 had over $500 million in real estate sales.
Wow.
A tremendous web presence. Month in and month out, you're looking at upwards of 350,000, 400,000 unique visitors being driven to the member websites for information about their product, with roughly over 7 million to 8 million page views each month. And all that does, it allows our client base to enjoy an expanded marketing platform for all of their assets.
David, give us the website one more time because we're bringing the program to a close. I want to thank you for being on the show, but how can people find out about all these auctions?
Doug, thanks 24/7. It's RowellAuctions.com. That's RowellAuctions.com.
All right, David, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Doug. Have a great day.
All right, we're going to be winding up, folks. Like our show, have a question about auctions that you want the show to address, want to be an advertiser on the show, let me know by emailing at doug@RowellAuctions.com. We've had great guests. I want to thank my studio guest, Louis Fisher from Sperry Van Ness Accelerated Marketing, which does commercial real estate auctions, and a good friend, and thank you, Louis, for being here. Again, we appreciate you listening in, and this will be on RowellAuctions.com, this whole show, and will be on YouTube. Take care.